Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Software Testing with Rick. This is the fifth video in our SQL Practical Series. If you have been following this series, in the first four videos we covered how to install Oracle 11g and SQL Developer, how to use create, describe, insert and select command, how to use where clause, how to use alter, update, delete, commit and rollback. Now it's time to take the next step and learn about SQL constraints and keys with practical hands on examples. Constraints help us control what kind of data goes into our tables, and they are very important for building reliable databases for testing. So, let's get started. Simple students table with no constraints, yet, just to show like how constraints are going to help us. So let's start with simple table for now. So let's start by writing create table students. That's the name of our table that we created previously as well. And then we'll write student ID of type number. Then is name of type varchar 2 length 50. And then is email of type varchar 2 of length 50. Let's put it 100 because emails generally are long enough. And then we write age, which is also going to be number, and then grade, which is also going to be of type number. Let's close this and run this. So our student table is created. Now let's check the structure using our describe command. So we'll write dsc students and let's run. So this gives us the structure. So we have name, email, age, grade, and let's also check what is inside for now inside our table. So we write select star from table name, which is our students, and let's run this. So you see our table is empty. So now let's start inserting some values or data into our students table. So let's say we write insert into students and then we'll write like that's our table name, and then let's write column name, which is student id comma name comma age comma grade. So basically we are going to insert values into these uh, columns, and then we write values, and let's say the name and the id of first student is 1, so we'll write 1 as it's of type number, and then we'll write the name, that's let's call it James, and let's let the email be james at example.com, and then age be 20 and grade be 95, and let's run this. So there is I forgot to add email column in this list, so let's write that email, and now let's try to run this code. Okay, so one row is successfully inserted. So let's check the data inside our table. So it shows we have James with his email address, age, and grade. Now this is one way of inserting data into the table. Other way is like you just copy and you remove the list. You just insert the values. So it's like insert into table name, then values, and then these are the values. So let's say our second student name is Johnny, and his email address is also like johnny@email.com, and his age is 21, and he scored like 90 in this exam, so his grade is 90. Let's run this, and one row is inserted. And now let's check. So you see, we got one second at number second. We have Johnny with the email address and age as we defined or added here. So these are two ways to insert data into the system or your database or table, like students table. Now there is one more thing that I want to add, is that's about the null, which is system defined null and user defined null. So let's first take this one to see the system defined null. So we'll be using the top one way of inserting values into the table. So we'll write, let's remove, don't know the email address of the student, and we just know the age, but not the grade. So let's remove the email, and we'll remove the grade as well. So let's say our student ID is 3 and name is J, and age is 23. Let's run this. So one more row is inserted. Now let's see what our select command says. So you see, we got J at number 3, and these are null values. These are called the system defined null values because system automatically gave null values to these columns because we didn't add it in this method. So this next, let's try to add using this method. Second method. So in this case, let's say the ID is 4 and the name of the student is Sam, and the email address is sam at example.com. And let's say we don't know the age and grade, so we are going to write null and null. And we'll put this, we'll have to put it in the single quotes. So you see, we don't know the age and grade, and now let's try to run this. So we got some error. Okay, so when we run this with null values, you see we got an error. It's because we added null here. So let's remove this because these are numbers, so we cannot put null here. And let's run this, and you see the one row is inserted. Now let's try to see what is in our table, and you see we got null values for Sam as well. So these are actually user defined null values. So I hope now it's clear like what is system defined null values and what are user defined null values. Now let's try to add some more information about the students. Let's say we want to add a student with this student ID 4, and the name is let's say any Peter, and let's say the email address is peter@examples.com. And now let's try to run this. So you see we got another student with the same student ID, which is like we will not like it. And you see we got Sam and Peter with the same student ID, which is not good, and we don't want students with the same student ID. One thing more, like I showed you how two ways to insert data, and in the first way of adding value like we did in here. So we only added values for the student ID, name and age, and we specified the column names and the values. Whereas we in this case we had to put like this quotes at the end. Let me show you. If I insert the values using this way, second way, and we put like let's say we have like same student ID, we don't know the name of the student, so we leave it null, empty, and we also don't know the email address, so we just remove it as well. And let's say we don't put these quotes as well, so we just know the student ID. And let's try to run this. Oh, there is this error. Now let's run this. So you see we got an error. It's because we didn't put enough inputs. Like we need to provide codes for each and every column that is in our table. So let's say we put two more quotes, single quotes. So now we have like we completed 5 column values here, and now let's try to run it, and you see the row is inserted. So in the second way of inserting value into our table, we should put, if we don't know the values of the and that need to be entered in the columns, you need to put quotes at least. And now let's try to see with select statement. So you see there are nulls everywhere except the student ID. So now you can see like our insert is allowing us to insert values that are not reasonable, like student ID cannot be repetitive. And even let me show you, let's say we don't put any data here and we run it, and you see one row is inserted. And if you check by select statement, you see even we have student ID null, and we don't want this scenario or this situation with our tables. To avoid such situations, we add generally or we add primary key. At least we have not null or have unique student ID for each student. So we'll use it. We'll use alter command to modify the structure and assign primary key to our student ID. So we'll write alter, then table name, which is students, and then add constraint, and then we'll be adding primary key to our students, and like primary key, and where we want to give it, it's to student ID. And let's run this. Let's run it again. I mistakenly had like error in the this command. So it ran perfectly, I guess. No. Yes. So it's ran perfectly, and now let's see our describe check the structure of our table. So we have student ID. So you see we are getting errors because this says like our table already contain null values in the primary key or student ID place. So we need to remove them, and then we'll be able to add this. So let's use delete command and remove those null values in the student ID, or those values that are like let's remove these null values and those student values where there is not they are not unique. So we'll be removing all these students that has student ID 4 and this student with the null student ID. So let's first delete all the values or whatever is data is stored in our table, and then we'll add more, or add first and second student again, and then we'll add the primary key case. And then I'll show you how to kind of if we try to add a student with the same student ID or null student ID, we'll get an error. So we'll write delete from and then students, and let's run this. So all our data is deleted now, and let's try to check now. And now let's run this command of setting our primary key at student ID, and we altered the student table, and now try to insert value into our table. And we added information of 2 students, and let's check by using select command the data stored in our table. So you see now we have successfully added information into our students table. And now let's check the structure of our table students using describe command. So you see we have student ID which cannot be null, and it's of type number. So now we added a student ID as our primary key which cannot be null. So let's try to add now the values or information of the students, other students that we added, and see if it works or not. So let's add student third student. It went well. Now the fourth student Sam, it also we were able to successfully add information. Now let's try to add Peter with student ID 4, and we got error because it has it's the student ID is not unique. So let's say if I put student ID for Peter as 5, and now let's try to run it. So you see the values were successfully inserted. Now let's try to add other student with the null student ID. So you see we got error, and now let's see the values or information stored in our students table. So you see we have 5 students with different or unique not null student IDs. So we successfully added a constraint which is our primary key. So primary key is must for the cases where we don't want any null values or any kind of duplication. Like here, in case we of student table, we have student ID, and we want each student should have a unique ID. Now the second situation is like, let's say we have a new student. We know the it's student ID, let's say it's 6, and we don't know the name of the student, and we don't know the email ID. We know is the age, which is 21, and we know the score, which is 70, grade. And let's try to run this. So one row is inserted, and now if we check with our select statement the information in our table, you see the name is null, and the email address is null. And we don't want such cases. Like we don't want like every student in our class should have name and the email address. So we can put special constraint like the name should not be null. So we can use the not null constraint. So we'll apply it for our name column. So we'll write this like this. We'll write alter table students, and then we'll modify name var 2 of length 50 as not null. So we are setting basically our name column as not null, and let's run this, and it's showing error because we already have not null value. Uh, like we have null value in our system as we inserted, so we have to delete this. So we'll write delete. We'll write like this. Let's copy this delete command and place it here. Delete from table name where student ID equal to 6, and let's run this. It's deleted, and let's see the structure or information. So you see we removed the null name, and now let's run this not null thing, and you see the students table is altered, and now we have not null in our name column. So if we check the description of our students table, so you see it's not null now, as we said. And now if we try to add the student with the no name and no email, it should give us error. So you see we got an error. And if we add the name, like let's say we add the name as Zore and now try to run this, and you see the information is added. So we successfully added another constraint to our table where we don't want to keep the name column as empty. That is, our every student should have name and we should have the information about the student's name. Now you see this is the information that is stored in our uh, students table, and we have all the students id and name student id are unique, and names are not null. And the third thing is what we want is, like let's say if what happens, some student come and he tries to add the same email address as our previous student. So let's say we write student ID as 8 and we write the student name is Hank, and the email address we write he address is peter at examples.com, and let's try to run it. So we got an error. I don't know what error it was, but if when I ran it again, so you see it's like we cannot keep primary key unique. So we have to keep the primary key unique. So let's run it again. So you see we added the row successfully. So now let's see the information of the students. You see now we have like 3 students with the same email address, and we don't want this scenario. We want each student should have a unique email address. So first we'll remove the student information and then we'll apply the unique constraint here. So let's try to remove the students first. Let's write it here where student ID is 8. So we have 3 students with the same email address, that is student ID 5, 8 and 9. So we'll have to remove these students. So let's remove the student with email ID student ID 8 and then student with student ID 9. And now let's check this information in our students table. So we don't have any duplicated email addresses. We will allow null values for our emails. So now let's try to run the information for Hank with student ID 7, and we do not put any email address, and now try to run it. And you see we successfully were able to add the information, and now let's check it inside it. So we have like null values, but there is no duplicate. And now we'll apply the unique constraint thing. So we'll write alter table students add constraint unique email and then unique and email. So this will make sure that our emails are unique. It will allow constraint null, but it will not allow duplicated emails. So let's run this. Run it again. What's happening? Yeah, so our students table is altered, and now let's check with describe command. So now it's not showing here anything, but it's modified. And now if we try to add a student information, let's say we add a student with student ID 8 and his name is Joseph, and the student ID is 8. And let's try to use the same Peter's email address here. And let's try to run. And you see, we got an error. So if we change to Joseph at example.com, and then it should go through. And let's try to run this. Oops. It should work. There was a syntax error. Now let's try to run it. And you see, we were successfully able to add one row, and now check with the structure using select command. And you see, now we have Joseph in the list with the student ID 8 and unique email address. And this is, of course, like very important. Like every student, we should have a unique email ID for each student, as we have in like real life example, we do have uh, unique, every one of us have unique email addresses. Now you see, like we don't have information about some students, and uh, some students are in the age group of 20 to 23. And let's say we are taking there is a course that is like course going on, and that has a age restriction that the students about 20 should enter into the college or enter into the class. So in that situation, we have to apply a constraint that is called the check constraint. So we'll apply it like this. Let's say we want to have age of the students, like let's say, or like let's say we don't want to have a student with a very weird age like -3. Like let's say we try to add the information like from here, and we add a new student 9. His name is Bruno, and his email address is bruno@examples.com. And let's say his age is -5. So let's try to run it. And you see, our table successfully accepted this value. And if we run check it here, you see we have Bruno with -5 age. So which is not acceptable, right? So we should have a acceptable age, should that this value should lie between 0 to 100. So let's try to apply the check constraint, but before doing that, we need to delete this, because otherwise we are going to get an error for this. So let's try to remove it using delete command, and we deleted it. And now let's apply the check constraint here. So we'll write alter table students, add constraint, and then we'll apply check constraint to our student's age, and then we apply check age greater than equal to 0. So we don't want any student to be of weird age like -5, like we added previously, and we altered, and our table is altered. Now if we try to add information with -5 age, we should get an error. So you see, we got like we violated the check student age. And now if we put age to 5, and it should go through. And you see, we successfully added the information. And now if we try to check the information inside our students table, so you see, we have Bruno with age 5, and with their email address bruno@examples.com. So we were successfully able to apply the check constraint where like we want to fix the values. And now the last constraint that we are going to cover for today's video is default constraint. So you see, we have grade information for some students, and for some students we don't have. And we want to like set the default grade value. Let's say we want to give everyone 50% grading to all the students or 50 marks to all the students we don't have information about their grades. So we'll write alter table students, modify, and then we'll write grade default. This is like the uh, default uh, 50. So this is our default constraint. So we said wherever we don't know the grade value, set it to 50 by default. And let's run this, and our table students table is inserted. Update students table is altered. So now, like if our constraint is really working or not. So in this case, we'll have to like you see, our grades like null is allowed. So null is itself like we don't have information, but if we use the second way of inserting the values like we used the first way, so let's say we add a new student, his name is student ID is 10 and name is Theo, and the email address is theo at example.com, and let's say we do not add the information about the grade, and we have to remove it here from here as well. And let's run this. So one student information is added, and now let's check it with select command. So you see we have Theo with grade 50. So this is the default constraint. So we didn't provide the grade information here, and the system automatically sets the default value of grade to 50. Let's say we try to use the second way of inserting the information. In this case, we'll have to provide null. So in that situation, it will accept null and it will not be adding the default value for the grades. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say we have the 11th student and his name is Lucas, and we add the email address as lucas@examples.com, and age is 25, and let's run this. So it added the information, and if we write like this, select star from table from students, and we want to check the information. So you see we have Lucas with the uh, null uh, grades. Now let's check the another way, or let me show you one more way. If we skip the information, and what happens. So we have a student with student ID 12, and the name of the student is Carlos, and let's say its email as carlos@example.com, and the age is 15, and let's remove the information from the grades, and let's run this. So you see we got error. So in this case, whenever we use default, we have to use the first way of inserting the data into our table. So in this video, I demonstrated you uh, all the constraints, that is primary key, not null, unique, add, check, and default constraint. Thank you so much for watching this video on SQL Constraints and Keys. If you found it helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, which is Software Testing with Ree. I'll see you in the next video.